Hi there, I'm Blackbright, hailing from the east of England. Welcome to my channel. You're welcome to subscribe, put the thumbs up, thumbs down, interact with my subscribers, or share this video. This video is about are all blacks alike? The reason why I decided to do that is because I sit on a panel and I was asked to find ways to improve relationships between the police and the black community. I was talking to my other half about it, and he was talking about the differences between blacks. He's from St. Lucia, and how the police see us all as one race, all as one type of black person. They don't kind of look at any of our differences, and I'm not saying that it's going to make any difference, especially if you're dealing with racist police. They just see a black face and that's it. You know, they see red and they just want to put them out of action. But I'm talking about rational police officers, of which are the majority, and a desire to improve relations, or at least understand relationships between each other and how black people are different. The same way as you get people from Scotland are different from Ireland, the same way you get people from Bristol are different from people from Liverpool, and you'll have people from Manchester who are different from people from Birmingham. You'll have the same thing within the Caribbean community. You've got, I've listed them here somewhere, you've got Jamaicans, St. Lucians, St. Kitts, Bajan, Trinidad, Grenadans, Dominicans, Arubans, Antiguans, Black South Africans, Nigerians, Ghanaians, and you have a few Black Americans over here, a few Black Canadians over here, and a few Black Australians over here. So, but when you think about amongst all of those people, we all have different accents. We all have different cultures. Some of us speak different languages. And yes, our parents, we were born in this country, but how our parents influence our upbringing and how we interact with each other is different. So I think there is an idea in the eyes of some police officers that Jamaicans and Nigerians are the troublemakers. They blame the Nigerians for fraud and they blame the Jamaicans for drugs, and that is their stereotype. However, if they don't understand all the different dynamics and the different islands and the different cultures within the black community, when they believe that Jamaicans are the troublemakers and Nigerians, how does that work when they're judging and they're stopping and searching? They can't say to a person, are you Jamaican, are you Nigerian? So they lump everyone in the same basket. They shouldn't be stereotyping anyway. They shouldn't assume that every Jamaican is a criminal and every Nigerian is a criminal, especially when you look at our history of, success in so many areas. But, it's the same old adage. If you're black, you're a criminal. And it doesn't, to be honest, I think with regard to a racist, it doesn't really matter what island or what continent you come from. It really doesn't matter. So how do they get their picture? We're dealing with the police now. How do they build their image of black people and what black people are like? Now, I would imagine that for the majority of them, before they were police officers, they may or may not have mixed with the black community. So that might not be their lived experience. And supposing, like in George Floyd's case, before they were a police officer, they had a run-in with with a black person. When they become a police officer, does that mean they're going to use that power to abuse that black person? What are the motivations behind police officers becoming police officers? Is it career? Is it revenge? Is it the benefits? What is it? So we're kind of trying to understand, how do we build better relations between the police and the black community. The majority of all the police are trained in cultural diversity, but the problem with the trainers is that many of them do not break down the different categories or different classification of black people. You'll have black Caribbean, you'll have black African when you're looking at the census. But within that black Caribbean and within that black African, there's a gamut of different cultures and languages and lifestyles and experiences and behaviors and attitudes and core belief systems. You know, we're all not raised the same. We don't have the same mindset. We're not all taught to react in the same way. The same way somebody from Ireland and somebody from Bristol, they might have a totally different way of interacting with each other and a totally different belief system. It's just like a Jew who's white and you've got a Roman Catholic who's white. They're both white, but they have two totally different religions, two totally different belief systems. It's the same with black people. You can't say they all look alike. I can't tell one from the other, which is what white people used to say way back. We don't hear it so much now. But when you're dealing with racist police officers, they can't see the forest for the trees. They just see a black person. They don't think, okay, that black person might be a banker. That black person might be a doctor, might be a celebrity, might be a lawyer. They don't think that. He might be a scientist. He might be an engineer. He might be a pilot. They don't think that. They see a black person, zoom, criminal. That is their mindset for those type of police officers. So can these police officers be educated to understand that black people are different? Sometimes you'll find a police officer say, you'll hear them say, oh, he was a nice lad. Very, very nice black boy he was. You know, maybe he was from, we don't know where he's from, but maybe he was from one of the calmer islands. Maybe he had a better upbringing. Maybe he hasn't been tormented. Maybe he hasn't had run-ins with the police in the past. Maybe his experience with police officers has been positive in the past, and therefore he has had positive experience. But likewise, the police officer might come up with an attitude and it might tick somebody else off. It might tick off someone else who feel disrespected or who feel that you should talk to me as an equal. You should talk to me, following your rules and regulations and your legislation, and you should allow me to exercise my rights as an individual, not as a black individual, but as an individual. But cocky black or cocky white officer might think, who the hell does he think he is? He's not good enough for the bottom of my shoe. And he dare suggest that I tell him his rights or treat him as though he deserves to know his rights. He ain't got no rights as far as I'm concerned. And that's where relationships fall down. That's where trust is broken. And until we can build trust between the police force and the black community, it's not going to get any better. And then you kind of think about the ways to build trust. How do you do that? You've got a history of Stephen Lawrence. It took nearly 24 years, I believe, 24, 27 years for them to bring the culprits to justice, even though they had the information shortly after his death. That doesn't build trust. You've got people being stabbed and killed, black youths being stabbed and killed. Do we get the feedback on that? Do we get anybody giving us an update to let them know that, we're interested? So these young men were stabbed in January last year. We can update you. We've found the perpetrators and we're holding them in custody. Is there any update? All those police brutalities and use of force, what about them? Do we hear anything more? Do we hear about the repercussions for the police officers or the consequences? Do we know those police officers have been suspended or sacked? These are the kind of things that make us feel that Black lives don't matter. It's when we're not given due consideration, we're not given updates, we're not kept involved, we're not kept in the loop. These are the kind of things that would improve relationships between the police and the Black community, but it doesn't. It doesn't happen in that way. For some reason, whether it's because of time constraints, but you can't say it's lack of resources because they've got more than enough of the old bill on the streets now. More than enough. So they should be able to feed back to the community, the affected community, what's happening. Give us an update. Let us know. There should be a police newsletter, a local police officer with all the incidents and what's happening and how we can update the community to let us know that the police are doing something. Yes, you can't always come back and put it on the news. The media isn't interested a lot of the time in good news. They're interested in sensationalism and things that go wrong. But can you imagine if you had a local newsletter from your local police office telling us, yes, you heard about, say, Lenny, whatever his name is, this person, this individual. Yes, he died while we were trying to restrain him. This is the outcome. These are the steps that are being taken. Yeah, we arrested a police officer who was found with pornographic pictures on his PC at home. We are taking action on that. This is what we've decided to do. Give us updates. Build the trust so that we can start trusting. Give us some transparency. We keep asking that for the government. Will we get that from the police? I don't know. Someone told me if there's racism in the community, there's racism in the police force because they're two of the same. And the only way you can root out racism is to bring understanding. And so when you bring an understanding, you have to understand that Black people, even though they may be one colour or shades of black, they're also shades of cultural diversity. They're also shades of lived experiences. They're also shades of adverse experiences. They're also shades of different cultures and different languages. Many, many shades. And the police need to understand that even though they may think we look the same, we are all very different. And that's why it's very alarming when police stop people and they say, you fit the image of so-and-so. When they show the image of so-and-so, it doesn't look nothing like the person they picked up. But because they are blindsided, they just literally see a black face. They don't notice whether or not that person has got a dimple or a scar or has dark brown eyes or has light brown eyes or has big lips or small lips, a flat nose, a straight nose, an earring. They don't notice nothing. They don't notice the detail in the makeup. I mean, somebody said to me once, "Oh, you look like Anita Baker." And I'm looking at Anita Baker. No, I don't look like Anita Baker. Anita Baker has small lips. Anita Baker has a smaller nose. Anita Baker has a kind of a sharp structure. But my point is that when white people see Black people, they see them as being very, very similar. Oh, you look like Beyonce, or you don't look nothing like them. And so it's about knowing that people are different. I don't want to carry on this too long because my videos are getting quite long these days. So there are differences between American Blacks and Caribbean Blacks, and there are a difference between African Blacks and Asian Blacks and Oriental Blacks. They are all different. And like I said, the history has something to play, has a role to play in showing black people either in slavery as opposed to royalty. The TV has a part to play by showing black people as criminal and what's that say? Can't even read my own writing. Comedians, actors, and entertainers. Um, and the media plays its part by showing black people as criminals, whether it's to do with dances or protests, disease, as in COVID-19, and as a nuisance, as in immigration. So it's those kind of, that is the backdrop you have, or the police have, or other people who are working with black people, or should I say working against black people by the looks of it. This is the backdrop that they have and what they're looking for when they go out there. So they haven't got a clue. They don't treat black people as individuals because they haven't got the time and they haven't got the interest. But if they treated black people as individuals, or as opposed to going in at them with this aggression and with this provocative and antagonistic attitude, some of them, there'd be a totally different result. If you treat it, because I believe with every action you get a reaction, and I strongly believe, unless you're dealing with bloody people with guns and, definitely they're a danger. But when you're dealing with the John Joe on the street, treat them differently. You'd get a totally different experience. You'd go home to your wife and kids feeling so much better than your body being in a total state of fear and flight. Because that's what those police officers, they're in a total state of trauma, constant state of trauma and alert, being on the alert all the time. And because of that, when they interact with people, they're defensive, they're reactive, they're aggressive, they're provocative. And compounded by their stereotypes, it doesn't make for a good interaction at any time, regardless. It's only that you get some people, you get some black people who kind of see it coming and they realise what the police are like and they just try to quell it. And they might say, oh, I'm ever so sorry, officer, I didn't realise, officer. And that may kind of bring down some of the aggression if you're a bit different. But some people, they think, why the hell should I be different? I know my rights. I'm not doing anything wrong. You stop me. I don't know what you're stopping me for. And then it spirals out of control. And yes, you can say, I have my rights. You can. You can easily say, I've got my rights. But, I'm just telling you like it is. Just telling you. So, compounded by local. And then, of course, with these differences between Americans, Caribbeans, Africans, Asians, and Oriental blacks, it's compounded by local, national, and regional differences. So it's a minefield. Being black is a minefield. It's not just one thing. It's not just one dynamic. And I don't believe that cultural diversity training takes all of this into account. I don't believe it takes into account the regional, national, local differences. I don't think it takes into account language. I don't think it might take into account different cultures, but it's usually about Ramadan and Eid and that kind of stuff, and the Notting Hill Carnival. And okay, the food we eat. But it doesn't break it down into all our different islands and our different styles and our different experiences. It doesn't break it down in that way. And Jamaicans are totally different from somebody from St. Lucia. They are totally different from somebody from Barbados. We are totally different from somebody from Nigeria or Ghana. We're totally different from somebody from South Africa or America or Canada. We're totally different. So, what have we got now? We've got the different accents. And this is another thing that is clear why we're different. You've got Geordie accent, you've got Scouse, you've got Birmingham, Manchester, Cockney, Scottish, Irish, Relic, Bristol, and Welsh. So all of those, you can get black people with all of those accents, and all of those accents compounded with the different islands they come from or the continent they come from, and on top of that, the cultures. Each compounds and makes that person unique and different from every other black person. So we're not the same. It's the same like Pakistanis get insulted when you call them Indians, or Indian gets insulted when you call them Pakistanis. It's the same way Ghanaians don't like to be mistaken for Nigerian. Ghanaians don't like to be mistaken for Ghanaians. It's a similar thing. There's different cultural expressions, behaviours and activities. And, people are quite loyal to where they come from. And to be just lumped into one basket or under one umbrella and classified as one race, it's a bit contradictory, because in one sense, yes, we are all just one race. We are one race. We're a black race. We're an African race. But when you're dealing with understanding black people as individuals, is it necessary to understand them as individuals? You might ask me that. Why do we have to have it broken down to that extent? Am I looking for division? No, I'm not looking for division. I'm looking for, I guess I'm looking for the police not to just see us as the same. I'm looking for the police to see us as individuals on our own merit, on our own background, on our own culture, as individuals. I think that is what I'm saying. That does not negate out the holistic aspect of black people. I'm not negating that. It's just that I think if the police had a better understanding that we are all different, even though we are the same. That's a paradox, but I think you understand what I mean. There might be a different understanding, their approach in the way they interact with us. That's what I'm saying. I'd appreciate your comments. Might be talking a load of tosh. But I know, like I said before, road police do not care about differences, or as far as they're concerned, all blacks are the same. They only differentiate between blacks and Asians. And like I said, they associate crime with Nigerians and Jamaicans. And like I said, just because Jamaicans have an aggressive accent doesn't mean that they're aggressive. Well, they call the Jamaican accent aggressive, but it's not. It's passionate, it's flowery, it's creative, it's got its own language. And a lot of black people, even white people, want to speak Jamaican, and that confuses it even more, because the police are picking up somebody who they think is Jamaican, and they don't even stop to think and ask them where they're from. They just assume that they're Jamaican because of the accent. But I heard Africans under the bridge at a carnival talking Jamaican, and then they started laughing and doing something else. But it's not good, because they weren't behaving appropriately. When they get stopped, people, the police are going to think they're Jamaicans, and we get a bad name for other people, for other islands or continents, misbehaviour. Or behaviour, whatever you want to call it. And it's interesting, because when we do go to the carnival, that's the only time that the police seem human. At any other time, they're just like machines in a uniform. Or as some person said, murderers in uniform. It's, why, at that moment when they're in the carnival and they're surrounded by so many black people, they don't seem afraid. Maybe it's because they've got cameras or whatever, or maybe it's because they think everybody's in a good mood. But it's weird because, oh yes, you do have the police officers who are kind of making sure they're checking that nobody's coming in with knives and all that kind of stuff. But those that are inside the carnival, you know, they are still doing their surveillance. But you know, people take photographs with them. You have a laugh with them. They get on, you know, they get on the carts and do all sorts. They're dancing, and for that short moment, we're not afraid of the police, and they're not afraid of us. We've got something in common, you know, at that little moment in time, once a year, which is now probably never happen again because the carnival didn't take place. They haven't wanted us to have the carnival for ages. Probably another excuse to just shut it down. But there again, it changed in character so much. It wasn't the same as how it used to be. So maybe it's just as well. I don't know. So we have to remember that within I just wanted to say, just treat black people as individuals. Um, Stop and search. Stop believing that just because a black person has a nice car, he's obtained it illegally. You know, you don't know his background. He could be a banker. He could be a lawyer. He could be a technician. He could be a scientist. He could be a celebrity. He could be anything while he's driving a nice car. And you have to remember, black people, our priority isn't vacations. With white people, they go on vacation maybe 1 or 2, 3 times a year. We don't do that. We spend our money on what, you know, material things, what we can see and touch. And a car might come into that. Nice clothes might come into that. So just because the police see a black person in a nice car doesn't mean he's obtained it by, you know, fraudulent means. So they need to stop associating black people with things of quality and crime. They need to disassociate that, de-link it. So I think the assumption is that black people can't afford nice things or should not be able to afford nice things because they're giving us such a bloody hard time. So I think I'm going to stop it there. I've gone on long enough, and I hope you comment. Let me have your thoughts. Tell me what you think about me breaking it up like that, you know, with all the different islands and, you know, different countries, you know, the continent, African continent, Caribbean islands, Indian blacks and all of that. Tell me just what you think, all right? And that's all for now. Bye-bye.